welcome everybody to our, I guess this is our first board meeting of the 2019-2020 season. In a few minutes, we'll swear in our new trustee and reconfirm our other trustees that were up for election this past election in May. And we're just waiting for one of our trustees who's actually a notary who will be able to notarize the oath. So we're going to go a little bit out of order here and start with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which Tom circulated earlier this week. So I'll give folks a minute to look at the minutes. And as usual, if you have any changes, please shout them out. Serious minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of chatting going on.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Can I get a second?
A second?
All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Thank you. So the minutes are approved as submitted. Maybe we'll, just as we wait for Dear so we can do the oaths, maybe we could talk about the committee assignments, and we won't ratify them yet, but I wanted to mention one thing. We, and this was actually Whitney's idea, which Deirdre and I thought was a good one. We decided to merge the Needs Assessment Committee into the Special Projects Committee because it is effectively a special project. I think, I don't know, we sort of didn't necessarily think about that last time, and it happened to also be the same group of people on both committees. And with having the 7 committees, it sort of fits nicely. There's 7 of us, so everybody's on 3, and everybody shares 1. And I think part of it too is just pure people's time. And so the thought was that we would have that be a major part, an ongoing part of the Special Projects Committee, but just not be a separate body that people have to, sort of get together separately on. So that was I don't know if you want to help with anything for logic.
It's great.
I thought it made sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we need to make, do you remember if we formed the committee like by motion or it was just we did it? Do you remember?
I don't think committees are formed by motion.
Okay.
The board officers appoints.
Okay. So we don't have to, I was just trying to whether we had to make a motion to like disband it, but it sounds like we don't.
I guess to ask people are people okay with their committee assignments?
Yes, are people okay? Yeah, we tried to do our best to, keep them, they're fairly similar to what they were with a couple of tweaks. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts about the committee assignments? No, straightforward. Okay. I think we should probably, do we have to approve these by a motion or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so the committee assignments then, let's consider these the committee assignments for the, it sounded like a firework or something.
Oh, was it phone? Oh, it's your phone.
Oh, okay. So nobody's lighting off fireworks in the other. That's good.
You're finally like, it's
Still
my
in the
phone.
spirit. The meetings
Firecracker.
are
Did he
usually
swore it?
So the committee membership then is as everybody has in their packages, and that's relatively straightforward. Just as we continue on, before we take the oaths, are there any financial highlights that you want to mention,
I do have some talking points buried here. The fiscal year has ended, yet the final, thank you. Sorry, the fiscal year has ended, fiscal year 2018-19. However, we are not at the end of our accounting relative to our status. I can tell you I have spoken with our administrative assistant, Jean Manning, and it would appear, as we had projected, that we will end last year in the black, which is a good thing. But no definite numbers yet. As I said, we're still processing invoices and looking at things. The reasons why we are in the black would appear we saved quite a bit on payroll due to some vacancies that we held, and that we filled a little bit later than we thought, which seemed to really work out to our advantage financially and otherwise. Let's see what else. Also, because we were blessed, and I mean blessed, with a relatively warm winter, our allocation for fuel, for oil, was not entirely spent, which is great on a lot of levels. We've had a few years when we've reached the limit and gone over, when we've had some cold winters, but this past winter was not one of them. One thing that we need to consider, this is something that the Finance Committee may gather together and discuss at some point in the future. We set aside money for tax certiorieries and the SCARs, and we're wondering whether or not it might be wise for us to remove it from the operating budget, have a fund, keep it segregated in the fund balance. So instead of asking for residents for that money every year, it would be, I think, more appropriate, fairer for us to consider keeping the money aside, and therefore, not, asking for that amount, which is upwards of $50,000 in next year.
So right now, we're asking for that every year.
Yeah, and
I
we're
don't
not always
understand.
spending it.
Is it the same amount every
Yeah.
year though? I don't think it is.
Well, we ask for the same amount because we never know what the year will bring, but very often it's under that amount. So it just seems like it's almost an artificial inflation of sorts. But I would leave it to the Finance Committee to think about, relative to the preparation of next year's budget.
Yeah, I just would wonder how they came to that number if we're always under, but it's the finance committee can,
Yeah.
We can discuss the details of that, and you can make a determination of yay or nay or something in the middle. So that's one other highlight, and let's see. One negative factor is, as you know, every year when we set our budget, it relates to the tax levy monies that we receive, as well as revenues that we generate in-house through a variety of means. It might be room rentals, it might be lost and paid books, fines, our proctoring fees. There's all sorts of ways that we earn money, and we hold on to the money, we deposit it, and we set a threshold of how much we hope to earn. And this year we fell short of that threshold. We estimated that we'd earn $150,000 in revenue. We fell short. We're guessing approximately $23,000. There are a variety of reasons why that is the case, but it's worth being mindful of that as we go forward. And of course, this is offset by the fact that we have, a deficit, monies that we believe will be unspent. So a surplus that will be an overage over the 23,000. So it's just worth letting you folks know.
Thank you.
And that's it. Those are the updates. And as I said, we hope maybe in either the August or more likely the September board meeting, we'll have a true accounting of where we stood. And of course, like every year, the school district will have an audit of their books, which also include our books. Happily, we don't have to pay for that. And so at some point in October, November, we'll have a formal document to share with the board and the community about where we stand.
Wonderful. Thank you for the update. And as if on cue, our trustee with, who is a notary, has arrived. And so I think we'll move to the oaths of office as the next step in the meeting. I, Whitney Barrett,
I, Whitney Barrett,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of Board of Library Trustees for a term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Board of Library Trustees for a term to expire June 30th, 2024,
In New Rochelle, New York,
in New Rochelle, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Beth, it's your turn.
I'll break it. I, Beth Casella,
I, Beth Acasella,
sorry. Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
of Board of Library Trustees
of Board of Library Trustees
for a term to expire June 30th, 2024,
for a term to expire June 30th, 2024,
in New Rochelle, New York,
in New Rochelle, New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So
Relating to fines.
now it's formal welcome to our returning trustee, Whitney Barrett, and our new trustee, Beth Acasella. We're delighted to have you on the board, and we look forward to making much progress together. We're now actually going to move to the appointment of the committees for the coming season. And I don't need to read out, do we actually do a motion for this or no?
I don't recall.
Okay, so we've circulated, we've recast the 7 committees that we have, the policy, buildings and grounds, community relations, finance, treasury and audit, budget, personnel, special projects. Everybody's got the records. We'll make them available with the paperwork for the board meeting today. They'll be in the minutes next time.
Do you think it's, I don't know if we've done this in the past, but maybe it's worth putting them on our website, the committee
Yeah, I think
assignments?
that'd be great. Let's do that. Let's
Just
put
so
the
that
committee
it's
assignments on the
totally
website.
transparent.
Yeah. So the committees are, and I would just encourage each of the new chairs, obviously, our new trustee will work with you and brief you on the budget committee. Others who have been here sort of know the drill on the various committees. So we'll just ask everybody to be focused and, continue functioning much as we have. So moving on, I think next we have the WS report, unless there's anything statistically you want to mention, and
No.
we'll cover it in here. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'd like to extend my warm welcome to Whitney and Beth for your election. And of course,
Thank
the
you.
Can you move the microphone? Sorry.
I better get used to this thing. I better get used to it. I think I talk louder anyway. So my warm congratulations for your election. We had our last meeting on Tuesday, June the 25th. And I believe this is my sixth meeting with the sixth meeting with the board. And I sort of wanted to share with you the impression I have of how the board is evolving and what I see as the main issues they're focusing on, so that you're up to speed, just as I hope I am up to speed in these 6 months. There are 3 areas that I see that whenever we meet, we tend to gravitate to those areas to focus our discussion. One is that administration and management of WLS. Whenever we meet, there's immediately a need to find out what's happening with the WLS in terms of administration and management, the personnel, how the financial resources are being used, what are the main areas in which the shall I call it secretariat, the UN term, how the administration is focusing its energies, relations with the donors, and our established supporters like the county and the state, etc. And then we review the audit reports and the financial statements. So it looks like the board would like to see and follow very closely how WLS is being administered. And the impression I get, is more than an impression, is that the board is fairly happy with the way things are going, financially and personnel, etc. Just so you know, it is a very small unit really that runs WLS. You just have 5 units, departments, or I think they're more like units. The executive director over there, and then you have the administration, the cataloging and interlibrary loans unit. Then you have the outreach, which I think is the external relations unit, and the technology. I think that's the more important one, technology and the technological support for the libraries. So these are really the main components of this administration, the executive director and the 4 units. It is a very small staff, only 27 permanent staff members. They call them full-time employees, and 10 part-time employees. Currently, they have 3 full-time vacancies. I mentioned that in case anyone has any ideas. So there are 3 vacancies. So it is a small unit. So that's one area of concentration which I like very much. Focused by the board on how WLS is being run and how resources are being used and what are the areas of activities on which WLS is focusing. That's one. The second one is relations with the libraries and technical support. This is probably the main one. While so many things could be said under this rubric, I think in the last few weeks, because of recent developments, our discussions tended to focus on the problems that we are facing with the libraries, with the virus attacks, etc., and the implementation of the ILS Evergreen. How is that going? We get the impression from those responsible that it is going well, but those who are supposed to be using these things feel that it's not going as well as it should be. And I understand in the last few days there's been some major development in this regard. So I'm just waiting to see whether an emergency meeting is going to be called for us to go and discuss these things or not. And being new, I don't want to push myself too much. I just want to see whether the initiative is going to be taken elsewhere. But I think it is something that is worth discussing to see what is really causing this problem. Is the evergreen system really the best system? Is it being implemented as well as we are being told? And if not, then what can be done to rectify the situation? What kind of cooperation should be put in place between the center and the libraries? So this is important. And under this area also, we are concerned, not so much now, but increasingly we're going to be concerned with the preparation for the census 2020. The preparation for that is not yet in evidence, but there's a lot of talk about it. So the board is pretty much aware of that. And of course, given the current political climate on this thing, I think it is going to be very interesting when we get down to the census 2020. So this is one area. The third is in the last few weeks or in the last few meetings, there's gradually begun to develop a conversation, a dialogue between the administration and the board as to what are the priorities of WLS going forward in the near term. and what strategies should be put in place to achieve those priorities. The discussion has not yet, it has taken the form of a seminar somewhat, but it has not yet sufficiently developed. In that, what we get is the administration, that is the director would express his views, and then some of the more knowledgeable directors would chime in, and the rest would listen very attentively. So I think it's going to, with a lot of interest. So I think this area of discussion is going to develop, and is going to be given more and more emphasis. And it's not difficult to understand why. If you know your strategy and the priorities and the strategies very well, that is going to improve your budgeting and how you use resources. And that's going to make your fundraising activities probably more credible. And also, I think it will, those who follow LLS near and far will be in a better position to see whether this institution is relevant or not. And in the long run is for the survival of LLS. So it is very important that we give attention to these priorities and strategies and discussions. So that is occupying us very much and increasingly. Now, just to remind you briefly, and then I conclude. The discussion, of course, is not taking place in a void. There is a certain framework within which we discuss these things. And that is, we have to be within the mission of LLS, and also within the vision that is developed for LLS. So the discussions is within those perimeters. Now, just to remind you, of course, you know that already. The mission of LLS is to ensure that all residents have seamless access to excellent library service throughout Westchester. That's the mission. And the vision, as presented to us, is that LLS will serve as a center of innovation, and boy, is it relevant, of innovation for Westchester County Library community. We will provide LLS will provide model programs, affordable and easy to use information technology, and support services that enable libraries to continuously improve service to their communities. Sounds UNEs, but I think it's clear enough. So that is the vision within which our discussions take place. Now, what are the priorities that we're considering? The priorities have been boiled down to three. The first priority is to expand LLS's competency as an incubator of solutions and services. And two, encourage and promote best practices across the member libraries. And third, to provide additional support for professional development for library staff and trustees. Additional support. That assumes that there's already that professional development within the libraries. So LLS will support that and enhance it. So these are the kinds of discussions that we're engaged in. It's very, very interesting, and I find it fascinating as a new person. I think for today, I would like to stop here. At our next meeting, I'm going to be talking about some of the recent activities of LLS, the recent activities and current activities in the context of what I've just said. And then what are the major challenges that the strategies and priorities are facing right now? And some of them are very, very interesting. So at our next meeting, I will go into that in some details. And with that, I think then you will have the same vision of what happens in Amsford as I do. And then I can benefit better from your advice and directions and guidance. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
That was very
Thank you, that was
helpful.
great.
Thank you. That was a great way to start the new season, and thank you. That was a very helpful overview. I actually made a slight boo-boo. We need to do the officers, the new officers for the term. So, sorry, do you have something?
Well, it can wait till after that, but I have a WLS
Oh,
report
please.
of sorts, and also I'm going to ask for board action. Um, As always, Francis presented very well, comprehensively, and I took a special note of his summary of WLS's mission, and I heard words, phrases like seamless service, excellence, innovation, easy to use technology. And I have to say, um, none of those phrases ring true relative to the new technology that WLS has introduced to our library and the 37 other public libraries. It's a system that is not functioning very well. It's proving to be very problematic in terms of ease of use for staff, for patrons. Information has dropped. Um, there's a variety of problems that we are facing as libraries, our communities are facing, because this new system that was brought online is proving to be extremely ineffective. And what I also found interesting was the presentation at these board meetings by either WLS management or the IT manager, indicating that things are going very well, and it couldn't be any less than the truth. I have to say it, because if you were to talk to our staff, they would tell you an entirely different story. And if you were to talk to the staff of most other libraries in the county, they would also say not true. So we have the system. We migrated a number of months ago. There's always bumps in the road that you encounter. It's just natural. But the bumps in the road are not getting any easier. It's really this system is not serving our residents well, or the residents of any other counties. So basically, myself representing our library and a variety of other library directors have been meeting outside of the county directors meeting to talk about how we can devise a strategy to help us get back online to provide this this seamless service and this excellence and this easy to use technology that's part of WLS's mission, but we're not making it happen here. And we met, we pulled together sort of a resolution of issues. I shared it with the board previously. We brought it to the county directors meeting in June, and it was adopted unanimously by every library director that was in attendance, which was nearly 30 in number. So this resolution was then presented to the executive director, and we're waiting for his response, which will be next Thursday at the next county directors meeting. In the meanwhile, we as a group, this, I don't know how to say, a dissident renegade group of directors, is what we are. I know.
Somehow I
I-
can imagine.
Aren't you
I
in
know,
the?
I know, I'm not, yeah.
Is that the
You're trying to
majority?
express the challenges
Yes.
that have been faced.
Yes, yes, yeah, I'm a rebel. It's easy to imagine, I know. I get you all right. But anyway, so we have been meeting, and one issue is the document that you see. As a result of last Monday's meeting, we're asking our boards to endorse this document. And to date, 2 boards have met, and the cities of Ossining and White Plains adopted unanimously. I'm asking our board to endorse this document. If you happen to do so, I will reach out to the executive director and the WLS board president tomorrow and let them know, giving them some sense of the urgency of coming to grips with this problem. So I would ask you to consider making a motion to adopt this document that you see in front of you.
So Tom, I have some questions.
Yep.
First of all, I don't know what PLDA is.
That's the county directors group.
Okay. So I just need some background. So do we pay for this?
Oh, almost $150,000 a year.
And so the reason why we use theirs is obviously there's efficiency of right, so
And
because.
Order of
Interoperability.
magnitude
Yeah.
efficiency.
Yeah.
38 libraries, it's a great concept.
Okay.
Sharing all of our resource amongst each other. You know, we have a delivery system, so, right, and it's
And
been
so
longstanding.
It would seem to me that if it's not working for you, it's not working for them, right? So
Right.
if it's not working for us, we are their customers,
Exactly.
and they don't get that, or are they feeling like there's nothing they can do, or have you tried? I particularly go to this point, providing training and anger management intervention is necessary to end bullying and poor customer service.
Well, some of the IT staff in particular have been accused of, of really bullying behavior, sort of demeaning, you don't understand, we know best. And, I have to be honest with you, our relationship with that department, if you can ask our staff, has always been problematic. We have had issues with them long before this incident, but this incident has pointed up the problem with libraries who have had, in many instances, a smoother relationship, but are now encountering problems when we as a group of clients say, this isn't working, you need to fix it. How can we fix it?
Okay, one last question. So your role is kind of, you take from my understanding, you take our concerns back to the larger board. So where is the board on this?
Good question.
Where is the board?
The board has instructed the director as well as the head of the IT to come out with a proposal for resolving the problem. The board, as I get it, they're a little perplexed, and they're not quite sure because of the mixed signals that are coming up. The gentleman concerned talks very smoothly and eloquently about everything being well. And of course, the directors, of course, will say, well, everything is going well, fine, except that we begin to hear from the library directors that that's not the case. And so this mixed feelings is now creating some unease within the board. And with the latest development, I think that has accentuated this problem. So I think that this is why I mentioned the idea of probably an emergency meeting might be called. I don't know, but I'm just going to feel around. But to answer directly your question, I think the board is beginning to be concerned that just to quote myself again, that all is not well. Yeah.
So with this, how do you feel about this proposal?
Actually, I haven't read it.
So
I
I
can give
have
you
some
summary,
questions
but I don't
too.
think I saw that. Yeah.
I sent it to you, Francis, a few weeks previously.
Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I've been remiss in
I have a few questions. What is VDI?
VDI is a system where WLS has insisted that all the machines are locked down. You can't access them without going online through their system. The original intent was to supposedly save WLS IT staff the need to travel here. But what we're finding is that VDI has really worked very poorly, particularly since we migrated, because in order to access the online system, you have to sort of access the WLS system, VDI. And I can tell you from our staff and many other libraries, access for our staff has been at best a minute to 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and at worst 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes. So if a patron's standing in front of us wanting to find something on the online catalog, they can't even get that far because in many instances, the system is blocking staff out.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, can I just state my feeling about this memo? I just read it, so I don't know if you sent it previously, and I apologize. I would, first of all, I support what you're saying. It sounds like there's a lot of control that makes running the library very difficult. Is that an accurate statement? It sounds like there is an attempt to be efficient on WL, which love efficiencies and I love, collaborative efforts. And I think that's probably the mission and the intent is to maximize efficiencies on behalf of the libraries of Westchester.
I guess that's the purported reason by the IT department or the manager. Quite frankly,
And you're not, and so
We're-
there's a side.
and it's not just to interject, and I disagree, and I can tell you, if you had to poll my staff, they would disagree.
So-
It's not efficient.
So it's not working, but
It's
the
not
intent is there,
working.
but it's not working. And my comfort level with this memo, I feel like it just needs background. What is the problem? Like in the form of a memo, who is the memo from? Who is it intended? Who is it directed to? What is the background? What are the main issues? And it's like there's questions being asked and then some suggestions but just have it be a little bit more organized.
This was, adopted by the directors, the county directors.
Right, I understand, but you all have the background knowledge, but for me and my comfort level of, I support you, right?
Right,
I want this to be better, and I share your frustration, and I can't imagine how annoying and irritating, and you think you're getting this whole new system, and it's been very disappointing,
It's
right?
fallen far short of our expectations and what was sold to us.
So, that's just my viewpoint. Is it's a list. I just feel like or I don't know.
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit similar in that I think clearly there's an issue. It sounds like there's a material issue. And I think the level of detail in this memo is something that I'm not sure, I think I would be comfortable with us thinking about a higher level resolution that's less, because I think just the reality is all of us aren't close enough,
Right.
aren't in this
Right.
level of detail. I think this is totally probably appropriate to come from the directors group. I think the challenge that I have is because we're not in the this level of detail, I'd be happy to think about another format of a resolution, just
From the board.
Yeah.
Even a letter from the board
Yeah.
to the
to the director.
director with our, our understanding that this is an issue, and we, as a board, we feel like
Sure.
it's inhibiting
Yeah.
the ability of our residents of New Rochelle to get what they need at the library, et
Or to
cetera.
the,
And-
or we should think about whether it's to the, there's a chair of, there's a chair of the board?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it would be appropriate for us to send it to the
Yeah,
chair.
yeah.
And to the executive
But with
director.
some background and that statement of what the issues are and
Well,
just some
not
more.
as much, I see it as just a high level,
We
this
support-
doesn't work. Yeah,
Right.
This is not working, and as a board, we support,
We support our director who is
Right.
managing the
Right.
staff, is reporting on these issues. That's
Right.
not allowing for consistency, arguably during some peak time for us in the summer, for
I have,
kids.
I have two questions. Were there any minutes on that last PLDA, that perhaps?
The minutes will,
That perhaps that we can kind of look at to see what other, what the directors are talking about, so kind of we can get a background, how we see
Yeah.
internally, what was discussed. Obviously, that discussion led to the creation of this, so I I just want to see if there's anything there. And then the second question is, the last piece here, PLDA, we are customers in the sense of WLS, but I see here that revising the pricing structure of WLS IT services that does not penalize libraries for not using all services offered. What is that?
actually, that's important.
What
Yeah.
is that, what does that entail? If we just say, sorry, we're not using it, what is that? How are we?
I think the idea is that if we could create a pricing structure that was more à la carte, if a library chooses not to go with the WLS, let's say Wi-Fi product, then you don't pay for it now. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for everything, whether you consume that product or not. I have no problem with the board choosing not to support this document, but sending a document to the executive director and the WLS board president, because really getting to the bottom of this issue is one in which we need to bring awareness and to some degree a certain amount of immediacy to these governing bodies and the executive director, that there is truly a problem and that it needs to be dealt with in a a tangible manner. And of course, the core of this document relates to the idea that we need to bring in a consultant to do a system analysis and maybe even look at the structure of the department. And this consultant needs to have full reign and no ties to WLS staff. It needs to be done independently because there are these major issues with this system. And yet, if where people were to cast the system as not a good system, it's not true. In Connecticut, there is a multi-library system of over 60 public libraries that have the Evergreen system, and we've gone and visited. None of these issues are facing them. I mean, so
you're
this is
saying
not a.
You think it's an implementation issue, not a
Well,
not a
Not a
product
software
issue.
product.
It's
Software issue.
because it's an open source product, there were some decisions made that were probably not entirely satisfactory. I personally, as a director, am not saying we should dump the system, but what I am saying is we need to take a step back and look at it and really analyze what's going on and come up with solutions.
Tom, every time the staff has an issue, are they able to take a second and actually call IT and put in a ticket?
There's no
It's
ticket
If
system.
The ticket
Here.
system's really poor.
Yeah, they talk about the ticket system.
The ticket system is extremely poor, it's not transparent.
Okay.
And if the staff were to do that, then
Regarding with tickets, then
Right.
at some point, does that go to a higher level? Why are there 30
Escalate.
calls a day from
Apparently.
there's a ticket system that's totally inadequate to meet the needs of libraries. We do complain, we do send in requests, problems, issues to customer support, and sometimes they disappear. And sometimes they come back months later telling us that they've been resolved, these issues, when in fact they haven't been. It's very problematic. And I want to mention, Daniel, you asked a question before about the minutes. The minutes will be approved at next Thursday's meeting. I'm happy to send those minutes to you folks once they're approved. There was another,
And then he talked about money.
Money,
That's all.
right.
He talked about money.
I do sort of disagree just with sending a general letter, because I do think that this level of detail needs to be stated so that whoever the letter is going to, that they know exactly what to address. I just think a general letter, I think it holds more power coming from the board than the directors, and that's
Well, what if
probably
we-
why you
what
want
if we
that level of
reference-
detail.
Yeah,
what if we
yeah,
but-
what we reference the attachment.
What if we reference the letter submitted by
Okay.
the library board director?
That's right.
Yeah.
Our director submitted a letter
Yeah.
in, like,
And
support.
support.
I think we can all say that these are some valid points, and I think we as a board want to, and agree with you, Tom, 100%, and back you with this, but we just want to make it a much more stronger
Yeah.
letter to really point out and the details of the frustrations and everything, not only in the community, but also the
That's right.
staff that are using the system. Clearly, it's working in Connecticut with the system of 60 libraries.
66.
And we can't
Wow.
get it together in Westchester. That's
Not working.
That's
That's
right.
an issue.
That's right.
Yeah. And also, not myself, but other library directors were at the recent annual ALA conference in Washington and met with the vendor. And they were shocked to hear what was happening. And they said, it's been successful. It's worked for the state of Ohio. It started out in the state of Georgia. So, we have seen successes on a larger scale than Westchester County. And it begs the question, why isn't it working here?
Right.
And how can we find a way to make it work? And in this document, you see many of the points. And I understand I'm asking you to support something that you're not all entirely familiar with. I can say the Ossining and the White Plains boards did,
I don't think you should construe this as us not supporting
No,
the letter.
I
I think it's
understand.
just that we need another level
Right.
coming from us based on our understanding and with a little bit more kind of high level background that outlines it for us so that we can better support the letter is how I see it.
Okay. I have to admit, I am hoping if you do move in that particular direction, that we could submit something before next Thursday's
Yeah.
PLDA meeting.
Yeah, I think just we would ask, it looks like this is date, I mean, not to be a pain, but this looks like this is dated the 20th of June. It would be helpful, I think in future, helpful to dialogue a little earlier, because I think that, just it's, seeing it tonight is.
Right, well, I actually sent it to you and Deirdre.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
Well, I think right after it was approved in June.
Okay.
So I still think it's two-part, like, I don't
We're
think
noting
saying
that you
not to
wanted us
set-
to
I don't
endorse
think we're
it.
saying not to join in support of your co-directors, like, I think that's a really great group and it's a source of advocacy, so it's not trying to dilute your power to participate in the group, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think what I'm hearing is we'd send a letter saying, referencing that we know you sent it and we support, what you're
Yes.
asking for
Yes.
and for the
Yeah.
improvement. So I think
We're
still
supporting it,
aspire to
just
send
in
it
a
by
letter.
Thursday, but
Right.
I'm also saying, I'm not hearing us say, don't send this
That's right.
in concert with your peer group.
Okay, right, I just, what we're trying to do is find a way to educate the powers that be that this is an issue, they need to take it seriously, and we need to come up with a solution. And when you reference staff unhappiness, I can tell you, there are plenty of patrons that are extremely unhappy. The whole hold system, which is truly important, we find something we want, we put a hold on it, has been very much compromised in this process. I mean, the migration, which was a 6-week migration, when it should have been 6 months or longer, we've lost information. I mean, it's not just myself and my staff complaining. It's had larger repercussions in the community. And again, if you look at it as a dollars and cents thing, we spend a lot of money to participate. I think it's money well worth it because of all the positives we get to share each other's resources. But, it's not functioning. Francis?
I like to say that let's give time to our board to come to grips with this matter. It is slowly beginning to be aware that there are problems. And in fact, within the context of the strategies for priorities, it's been proposed that there should be an audit of the IT and all its operations and services. And in fact, an amount of $30,000 is already being allocated for that. And so I had planned to brief the board at our next meeting on some of these things. So we're beginning to be aware that something needs to be done. That's one. And two is whenever we get a report from the representative of the Public Library Directors Association, it is always very sketchy. You get a feeling, at least from my perspective, you get a feeling that there was unity among the directors and everything is fine, et cetera, et cetera. And it happens that it's not so. I like unity. I would like the Directors Association to maintain that cohesiveness and discuss their problems within the context of unity rather than have a split group, etc. And that's why I find just speed reading this document, I find it a little bit aggressive at some points. Yeah, and might be perhaps counterproductive. I don't know. I feel that let us hurry slowly. Let's give our board a list from our standpoint to deal with this matter. And in our next meeting, I'm going to be expressing the concerns that I've heard in here and the need to speed up things.
I know you characterized this document as aggressive. I respectfully disagree. I think we are in a crisis mode with a system that's not functioning. I think our efforts at the June board meeting to let the executive director know first to deal with this was appropriate. And we're waiting for Thursday's meeting to see how that plays out. And Francis knows I've been discussing this matter with him for a number of months with the early stages of this isn't working so well, okay, to the point where I'm saying it's not working at all. It's a disaster. It's a disservice to our residents. So that, again, I'm more than willing to work within the boundaries of what's appropriate. And I think we as a group have done so, but I do think it's a major issue. If you look at who we are as an organization, we're a library. We have all sorts of information and material we want to share with our residents. If the online system The ability to access information, if you've been looking for it, is extremely difficult, impossible for experienced reference librarians. What does it say for about the public who don't have the skill set in many instances? I mean, all these great online resources that were available in the old catalog, you know, things that you could find on Overdrive or other streaming services, they're gone. They're not there. So our people aren't learning that these resources aren't there. So I think that's a resource. I think when we deny our residents access to information, we're going against what we're supposed to do.
So I think just because, just in an interest of moving,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
I'm
I think,
sorry.
and it's not, please don't apologize. I think you're passionate and this is your job and like this is literally it. But I think big picture, I'm still hearing that the board agrees with you joining your peer group in submitting the letters as strongly worded as I think, I don't want to be in a position where we're hamstringing you on that opportunity. And I think, I want to respect your role and I appreciate that you shared it with us. So I think we are still in agreement of that. And what I'm hearing the leftover piece to be done is for a letter to be written by the board to be submitted before Thursday. Is that what I'm hearing to go? Great. We don't have to move for that?
Nope.
Awesome. Are we feeling okay? Are you
We are
feeling
much
feeling
better.
like we're supporting you?
But
Okay,
no,
because I want
am,
you, okay.
Because I understand your qualms about receiving this document. I had shared it with Chuck and Deirdre a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
At Monday's meeting, it was actually my suggestion, said maybe we can share this with our board formally
Great.
for consideration in terms of
Great.
approval. So it is rather last minute. I
Nope.
won't deny it in terms of this issue. But if the board if it's a sense of the board that you acknowledge that there's a problem,
Yes.
and that there's a letter that's going to be struck that will talk about these issues,
Yes.
I'm happy.
It will be spoken in a way that we can appreciate, that we can understand, so it sounds like we wrote it and not that, somebody
Right,
else wrote
right.
it for us and we signed on it. That's what I'm hearing, that will be the
Yeah.
goal, right? Awesome. Okay?
We'll make sure you guys all see it, yes.
And I
Awesome.
think we understand that time is of the essence.
Yes.
We're gonna do
on
it.
this. Yes.
Okay.
We got it.
Awesome. So what's,
So
are
Chuck
we
and I.
swearing in people?
Yes, Chuck and I
Okay.
will work on that.
Great. Oh, that too.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Let's move to the election of the board officers for the term. So I chaired the nominating committee. The nominating committee has met, and I'll go ahead and make the proposal. You tell me if I need to do it specific. Can I just put the
I think-
officers for?
Right, and then you ask for any discussion,
Okay,
et cetera,
perfect.
and then call for a vote.
Perfect. So for the 2019-2020 term, the nominating committee would like to nominate Deirdre Gray Clark as president, Whitney Barrett as vice president, and Daniel Bonet as secretary for a term 1 year, as they all are. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to discuss? Okay, then I make a motion to, well, maybe somebody else should make the motion, because I'm the,
Make a motion to, what you said,
Adopt
Deirdre's
the
president,
slate.
adopt this slate as suggested by Chuck. Deirdre Gray Clark as president, Whitney Barrett as vice president, and Daniel Bonet as secretary for the 2019-2028 year.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Sarah
Sarah.
seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And with that, I'll see the rest of the meeting.
Madam,
We'll
where's the
rearrange
gavel?
ourselves next meeting.
Give her the gavel.
I like the gavel.
There you go.
Well, thank you. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tom for the director's report. That is the next thing. Actually, it's the president's report, and I'm going to do what Chuck does. I don't have anything right
Okay.
now.
And I'll try to make it fast after my.
I do actually have
passion.
questions. I have two questions, and it'll come up on this, and you can tell me. One is, I have a question about this. I have one question about the strategic plan, when it was last done, when we're going to do it again.
It was done in, I believe, 2016, and I believe it's a 5-year plan. And so we should be thinking in the not too distant future about doing it again. There are different approaches to take to do that, bringing in a consultant, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, so I actually think that's something
Special projects.
special projects should start to think about.
Special Projects has been thinking about it
Very
for a
good.
long time.
Okay,
We're on it.
okay,
Thank you.
that's it.
Okay,
The second
okay,
question.
report. Grants. As you folks know, we have 2 grants that are outstanding for this year. One of them we actually received. It was, of course, the smaller of the 2. The state of New York has a tendency to send out grant rewards that are smaller amounts earlier than the larger. Must be a coincidence, yeah. So we have received the grant money for the new boiler, gas boiler at the Huguenot Children's Library, and so we're going to go forward, and that'll be great. We're waiting on the larger of the 2 grants, $140,000 from the state for the second floor renovation project, and so we expect to see that maybe this month, perhaps August, possibly September, but once the money arrives, and we're going to wait to do anything until the money does arrive, then we'll start the process of ordering the products and setting the services in place to start this very exciting facelift for the second floor. So that's that. Now, relative to the state grant process, as you folks know, it's been our strategy to apply for grants every year. We've been very successful. We received almost $1.5 million these last years. And you can see the difference when you walk into this building or the Huguenot Children's Library. So once again, we are putting together grants. For the main library, it'll be a continuation of the second floor renovation project, phase 2. And we're excited about that. That will include a variety of things, a new, more functional, more efficient public service desk for the second floor. A new layout for our computers as well. We are looking to create a sort of a more pleasant reading periodical New Rochelle authors space on the second floor as well. We are looking to continue to add to our caps on our shelves so we can put signage that tells people where, in fact, collections are located as well. We will revamp our microform area. We will take our local history files, which are still important, paper though they may be, reorganize them. So there's a number of things that are on the agenda that we'll be doing, that we're working on. It's all in tandem with our staff. It's not top down. It's from some more organic with the staff having input. So that's that grant. And again, I don't have a number. We're still working through that. And we've made some good progress. I'm hoping things will come together. So at our August meeting, I will be asking for a resolution to allow us to apply for those grant monies. The Huguenot Children's Library project is one, again, based on input from staff. If any of you have used the Children's Library and have children, Sarah, I think you have, Whitney probably as well, Yadira as well, most of us here. You know that when there are programs, the programs are most typically held in the lower level. Because the building is so old and the stairs are so narrow and behind the desk, sometimes, almost most times, people are asked to leave the library, walk around outside, inclement weather or not, and enter that way. We are trying to find a way to reconfigure this space, not dramatically, but allow for people on that entry level floor to access the lower level safely. You know, it will never be a wide vista of stairs because the building was built in the 1870s, but we're looking at the possibility of making the stairs, I don't know if you've ever walked them, but they're kind of scary and dangerous, making them wider, making them more secure, and hopefully moving the doorway to a more public area in the space so that parents can more easily access that space. So, and we're also possibly looking at on the lower level, there's a door which, if you folks again know, when you open it and it's poor weather, the wind blows in and it's cold, and we're trying to figure out a way to create a foyer of some sort to allow us to conserve energy and not to create a real havoc, you know, with people coming and going. And, you know, we're working with people to come up with plans and a consultant. So we think those are 2 pretty worthy projects for your consideration. And So that's sort of where
Will
we
that be,
stand with that.
is that being looked at by the Building and Grounds, that project?
Not yet. I'll be referring it to them once we have a sense of where we stand. I do want to mention that the EDAP grant, the Economic Development Grant, is sponsored by Senator Stuart Cousins. Thanks to the hard work of our administrative assistant, Ms. Manning, we have submitted the paperwork. We have hopefully answered all of their questions. There's been a lot of questions, and we're hoping at some point in the future to see $100,000 heading our way. So that's good. The Rotary Club of New Rochelle donated $1,000 for the teen Friday night program, which I'll talk about, and our terrific Lions Club gave us $500 for that same purpose. So that's good. Speaking of that program, the Friday night program, we're moving forward. We're working with the Youth Bureau. We had a meeting as recently as yesterday with Kelly Johnson, and the program will begin on the 19th, and then the 26th of July, then August 2nd, August 9th, August 23rd. Youth Bureau is providing resources, financial and otherwise. We've been able to create a partnership with the very successful Mentors in Blue program, the New Rochelle Police with teens. So they will be in-house when we have this program, which is good. We will have security from our guards. We'll have programs, a choice of programs for teens. It'll be, I have a copy of that. They do.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. So we're really excited about it. Our staff is involved. Kelly and his people are involved.
Any ages?
Ages are, let's see. Does that say that there? There it is, 6 to 11, 6 through 11th grade.
That is such a gap. I mean, that's such a wide.
Oh, because
Yeah.
that's like your girls. Right?
Yes, that's what I'm like.
So like
my
a junior
girls-
in high
Yeah,
school.
yeah. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you, parents have to
Like
decide,
hanging
but,
out with high school.
That's
But-
exactly
Me,
what I was thinking.
hanging out with high school kids.
yeah, we know that it's a wide gap, and quite frankly, this is our first time doing this, we're watching. So therefore, it's all pre-registration. No one will be allowed to enter that evening, and it will be, specific to New Rochelle kids as well.
I
So
think
we're
it's
trying to
great.
keep it, we're trying to keep,
You could use my kids
control.
as test models.
And again, we know, this is a beginning. It may not be perfect, and but the point is that we need to provide options for our children that age, something positive, something in a safe place, and something enriching and fun.
Did we put this on social media?
Have you gotten that yet, Nikki? No.
I don't even think the youth bureau has put it up either.
Oh, they haven't?
I haven't seen it.
No. Kelly.
I'd love to be able to put it up. We hear so much complaints about, no, there's nothing to do, da-da-da.
Well, I'll make sure that we get it. We'll also be issuing an invitation to the board if you want to be there that evening. The mayor will be there, the city manager as well.
Well, if my kids come, the last thing they want
Let's
is
see,
That's
Mom.
the last thing they
Yeah.
want to see.
Tom, what are some things that aren't offered like the first night?
I think, I wasn't at the program meeting Wednesday, but I believe there's going to be an open mic night. I believe there'll be food that'll be offered. I think there'll be some sort of outdoor activity, possibly yoga. I think there'll be, is it called Girls Talk Inc.? So there'll be something for young women as well. So
Sounds
there's,
great.
yeah.
STEM related activities as well.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It does sound really great.
And what we're going to do is try to not do the same thing over and over again, because that's boring. And again, it's all a matter of trial and error, but we feel with the precautions in place that there'll be plenty of adults and security folks. We're going to offer a viable option. And this is a pilot. It's scheduled to take place in a series of Friday nights in July and August, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the fall.
What's the age range?
6
6
to 11.
11th graders.
Sixth grade.
50 young people. I met.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. But it's good. It's good.
Big spread.
Oh, do I say? Okay.
So I'm just about done. Let's see. the Friends, their book sale is tomorrow and Saturday. Their board meeting is next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I've asked Chris Ellen if the foundation has put together its meeting calendar for this year. I don't believe they've come up with anything yet. So when I receive something, I'll share all with you as well. And I think that's it.
When is it, 1 o'clock? Which day is the board meeting?
It's next Wednesday, the 17th at 1 p.m. And it's held at the series of tables just outside the Community Relations Office on the first floor.
Okay. Great. Do you have a personnel report?
I do, very brief. So it's exciting to announce that once again, our Huguenot Children's Library Summer Fun on the Patio program has begun. It started on Monday, and this year is sort of a revolutionary year for us because unlike all the previous years, this is strictly administered by our library staff, namely the children's department. And so we have hired 3 young people to work as sort of counselors. And I'm going to ask you for a motion to approve the hiring of Mariana Lopes at a wage of $12 per hour, Molly Smith, same wage, $12 an hour, and lastly, Reagan Grant at a wage of $12 an hour.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the salaries for the folks that Tom said.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The
Thank
motion
you.
passes. Is that all you have for us today?
It is.
Great. So we are now moving to the committee reports. I don't think the budget committee has anything, but we now know the budget committee is the 3 of us. Okay, and so we generally start meeting in what, January? Or not?
Yeah, we can set up a meeting though in the nearer term just to kind of talk about the process and, yeah.
But I do know that Buildings and Grounds does have a report, so.
Yes, we do. The Buildings and Grounds Committee, which is myself, Whitney, and Tom, met with the Croc Committee this past Monday, and we had put out an RFP to perform a building audit. One hasn't been done since 2009. So we received 3 proposals, and I think it was unanimous that we decided on one of those. It was, do I say the name? Okay, so it was Architectural Preservation Studio was the proposal that we chose. And there were a couple of things that we discussed, one of which included parking requirements. This was actually from a different proposal, but we thought that it was important. Actually, Whitney brought it up. And the architect at the meeting had said that it was actually a very simple calculation based on square footage, how many parking spaces would be required for a building of our size. So he will attach that to whatever report that Architectural Preservation Studio gives us.
Pro bono.
Pro bono, that's right.
That's always important.
So we felt that APS provided the best price for the building audit and had just the scope that we needed. So I'd like to ask the board, I guess I have to do a motion to approve $42,500 to be spent on a building audit.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think the finance committee approved that funding
Yes,
out of
they
the
did.
fund
Yeah,
balance.
Last
We did last time.
meeting.
So it
Yeah.
just, as a note, it shouldn't come from operating funds, it should come out of the
Fund
balance. I
Did
think
you
we
get
approved
that?
it. I think we approved $50,000 and it sounds like it's slightly
Jean?
lower.
She got it.
Okay. So, right, more was put aside.
No.
We,
No, for it's, 42.5, but
think
depending
it's-
on what they find, they may need to do some additional services.
I think we had said 50 before because we weren't sure, so we should leave
Right.
it at
Okay.
50 in case there are contingencies.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think
Is
that's
that,
it. Yeah.
is that all?
Mhm.
Okay. Community Relations Foundation and Huguenot. And before you go, I just, because I think my kids are in the summer programs and it's fabulous. So I just want to say, you guys do a great job. They did some cooking this week, and they're just having a good time. So you guys do a good job.
All right, so some community relations updates and recap for June and early July. June 22nd was a kickoff event for the summer reading game, and for the In Search of the Earth's Secrets exhibit was a big success. The 45-foot
Is that the thing out there?
inflated replica that was outside on the farmers market.
Okay.
They had some technical issues. Actually, the
Okay.
blower thingy was blowing out the fuse, right? Tom, if I'm not mistaken, that was like they were saying. So they ended up bringing generators and anything, but it was a success. They managed. A stilt band played in the park, and over 400 children and adults were engaged in crafts and exhibit. The children's summer reading game sign-up has been steadily growing. Bobby Simic and the other children librarians have created a fabulous window and incentives with our theme, Explore the Seven Seas. The library's 4-day thematic programs requiring a registration are now all booked. The first, which started on Monday, was a food and science adventures, which is probably what you
Yeah,
were
they're doing
stating.
good. Yeah.
During
They-
which,
They made ice cream,
Yeah.
bread. They were
Which-
supposed to go to Dubrovnik, but it was too rainy.
which 28 12-year-olds made ice cream, baked bread, shopped, and prepared fruit, salad, and participated in science experiments led by Iona students. Weekly programs in the mornings, drop-in basis, so everyone has a chance to participate. Even if their parent didn't register in a timely fashion, and the popular Mexican dance classes in August will have registration the first day of class. In Search of Earth's Secrets exhibit we are hosting this summer has been receiving terrific attention and attendance. Our 12 trained teen docents are on hand, and a few afternoon hours during Saturday hours to help all ages use the kiosk and to participate in relevant activities to help understand the research of Earth's core. At the Huguenot Children's Library, a librarian is overseeing the teen staff members and the library-related crafts and games at the Summer Fun on the Patio program, which it's each weekend from 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Teen programs conducted by YA librarian Ken and teen program assistant Luis are off to a good start as well. And a note here that adults are encouraged to get in on the fun by participating in the summer reading bingo. They are also offering a number of programs for adults as well as family programs such as our very popular international music and dance series. I also wanted to share that we spoke about this, and I think, Francis, you mentioned this at the WLS meeting a few months back with the Resilience film. They are going to be showing the Resilience film September 25th here at the Rochelle Public Library, 10 a.m. They are looking for sponsors. It's being led by Pat White from the Office of OMH. But I would say there are going to be some sponsors, some discussion components. So I encourage people, if you have not seen Resilience,
What day of the week is that?
I'm
10
not
a.m.?
sure. It's a Wednesday. Yeah, 10 a.m.
It's unfortunate timing, but
So yeah, put that on your calendars. And I didn't see it on the notes. Sarah, did she?
For babysitter.
Oh, sorry. So I know there was,
Yeah.
okay. But I guess we can talk about it next one. I know there was a note on the coloring book aspect, an email that was sent out. I know there was a group that was put together of community members and art teachers to judge the work. So I think she'll probably can give us a report next time, see how that went and where we are at. And that is it.
Okay.
is there any way that we could get Resilience to come during a normal movie viewing hour, like an evening or a weekend?
I think that can be arranged with the community Relations Office, Tom, right? I think Barbara, they've done it before, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we've shown the movie at least on two other occasions.
I missed it both times, and I will miss it again.
But I think this one is being hosted by Office of Mental Health.
That's
here.
nice. I
And
see.
think I mean, I cannot see
If we
why
want it, if there's
I
demand.
think we have the film here, actually, Tom, right? I think
We
Barbara
do.
has the film.
Right.
So,
It's
I mean,
just a matter of public broadcasting rights.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does finance have anything?
No.
Okay. Needs assessment?
We don't have anything.
Okay.
I think we were waiting till after the election and to regroup and
Okay.
and now we
again-
will move forward.
Okay.
Now you're disbanded.
And
regrouped.
personnel doesn't have anything. When is the contract up?
The contract expires, it's at the end of this year, right, this fiscal year, Gene? Yeah.
Okay.
So I would recommend that the Personnel Committee begin considering affecting a strategy and reaching out to our union.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Okay. So we will, we'll do that. Policy committee?
I owe a meeting, but we'll convene and report back.
What about the sexual harassment policy I filled in? Do you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
wait? Per the last
Sure.
meeting, you asked me to fill in, and I sent it. I think it's
Yeah,
in
you
your.
did. You sent it. We
Completely
sent.
understand.
Yeah.
I was a bit distracted for the last 30 days.
That's true.
I really tried to get it all reviewed, but I did not. So I promised to do that.
And we have
Maybe,
time
like,
legally.
full
I think
machine, okay.
it's November
Yeah.
of this year when we have to have the new sexual harassment
Yes.
policy. It could wait.
My brain has a lot more.
You have a lot of things going on.
I had a quick question about the sexual harassment. Is it required, because I know some agencies and organizations are doing this, that directors or supervisor or individuals that have people that report on them go through a training on this?
We actually
Is it-
did.
okay.
Yeah, and had a really good turnout. Just a few,
Was that on the
people.
Wednesday of the construction you mentioned?
exactly.
Yeah.
When the library closed that day, we said, let's use it
the training
effectively and
interesting.
have the training come in
Nice.
that day.
Okay. The sculpture garden update, our special committee, special projects committee, do you have anything?
I have one small thing. I don't believe there's been any movement per se, but I do know that, again, our administrative assistant, Ms. Manning, has been working with Amy Paulin's assistant, and we're moving that grant forward for $125,000. I also believe that the foundation was looking at hiring a surveyor for the topographic survey. I haven't heard anything about that. But I do have one other thing about special projects. I'll let Whitney finish, if you have anything to say.
Go ahead.
One longtime special project that Yadira will remember fondly would be the desire to purchase equipment for a broadcast system. And we have been working with the city of New Rochelle for a few years in regards to obtaining PEG grant money that the city has access to. And we have been promised $30,000 to create a system that we can install in this room so that we can continue to broadcast the meetings as well as broadcast other events too. And we are working with a vendor who has a state contract who has actually we have hired them to work on other aspects of our lighting and broadcast capacity. And we're going to most likely work with this firm to provide us with the equipment to put the broadcast system in place. And that's great because we have tremendous success with them. They're familiar with our system, and there's a few bugs in our system that we have that as part of this process, they will take care of it without us having to pay for it separately. So I'm hoping in the next number of months, we will have a system in place that will allow us to broadcast with pretty seamlessly.
Great.
It's great. Yeah, as far as the special projects committee goes, Deirdre and I met with members of the Library Foundation to talk about ways to work more collaboratively. So we're working on that, and we can report back with some more kind of tangible steps that we will be taking and directly pertaining to grant applications and priority projects in an effort to make a more codified process and procedure for identifying areas for funding, prioritizing those areas, and working together to streamline communication between the groups. I think we share a vision, and I think working together we will find greater benefit and more overlap in that vision. And then I wanted to bring up actually just two quick things. One, I'm not on the community relations committee, but I hear a lot from people who will just tell me, and it's the same thing about parking. It's an issue I think that it's not new, but that I go to Scarsdale, I go to Larchmont because parking is free, and I'm just bringing it up because I agree that it's to the detriment of our library that we have folks in our town who choose to patronize other libraries because of that issue. We were talking about this at the last CROC meeting. So I'm just bringing it up just to put on everybody's radar. I don't know what will be pursued as far as solutions. I think there are a lot of creative things that we could do. So I'm thinking about it. I will probably bring it up again. And I'm considering it a special project. So, just something I'm thinking about. And then the other thing is something maybe not important to all, but when I was here last weekend, I think, or the weekend prior, signing warrants, one of the staff members at the desk mentioned that they ran out of the sweet little pouches that children receive when they sign up for a library card for the first time, which my home is the proud holder of 2 of those little pouches that float around, and I know it made my 2 children feel really special and proud that they had this like little thing with their name on it. And I think she mentioned that it had come from a donation by the Rotary.
The Rotary Club.
Yeah, and so she mentioned, she said they're so sweet and we love giving them out. And I had asked her, I said, is there anything? Yeah, I don't know how that happens or if there's some other way that we could bring more of those.
Let me, we can look into additional Rotary funds or other areas where we can find the money.
Yeah, it's a sweet thing, and I know.
How much was it?
It was done so many years ago, I can't quite.
She said you just ran out, and she didn't even know when the last time. It lasts a long time.
It had to be well over 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Yeah, but it's really I was so happy when they are they loved it, and we know where they are. I know where they are, and my kids got their library cards probably 2 years ago, and it's a miracle that I actually know that where they are. Those pouches exist in my house.
Right, they're special.
They were revered as special objects. Yes.
So let me work on that.
Thanks, Tom.
Is that it?
And that's it.
Okay. We are now going to move to public discussion. And the first person. Yes,
I
sir.
just want to say,
I'm sorry.
as we have no meetings for July and August.
Okay.
Our next meeting will be September 24th.
Oh, okay. So then you'll come back to us with stuff about the IT stuff. Okay. Marjorie?
You really like to hear that?
Yeah.
I think it's the 6th.
So I'm going to be really brief. I just want to congratulate the elected members, Beth and Whitney. And I also, the new board president, vice president, and secretary. And we also want to appreciate Mr. Burke for his service as president. And Mr. Giaffino, as a representative of some of the community, we really want to know if there's something that we can do to support you in communicating that this seems like a real crisis with the technology. And I'm a little disturbed to hear that WLS is not meeting for August and September. I don't know if that's going to influence, how this gets handled. But if there's something that we can do as a community to support communicating our concern about this, please let us
I
know.
will.
If you have
Thank you.
ideas right now, or how you can reach me, because
Okay.
this sounds like it's just escalating and it's going to get more and more frustrating for people. And this really needs to be taken seriously as a crisis. So let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next person to come is Denise Ward. We've tired her out. Well, with that is the end, and I will adjourn.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second, now, go, all in
Now
favor?
slam.
All in favor?
Aye.